Today, we talk about... We're back, episode, still don't know what, because I'm doing like a fuck ton of these, so I'm like way behind in the editing, so I don't know what number we're on. I think we're in the high 30s now. But again, another special guest. Introduce yourself, my man.
Hey, I am Peter Wong, a comedian in New York City.
And that's it.
I'm Chinese. What else?
So usually how I do this is I'll have you give us an intro of like your comedy come up, like how you started, when you started, where you started, who inspired you, blah blah blah, and then wherever the conversation goes, we'll split it up into segments. I put out the segments, then I put out the whole thing at the end. So
it's gonna be just like every other podcast, then, right?
Hey. Well, no, I mean a lot of other podcasts they'll have like themes and stuff, but. I feel like A, that's effort, and B, it just doesn't lead to. I mean, it definitely leads to organic conversation.
A lot of podcasts do origin stories.
I see.
Is what I mean.
I see. Okay.
Not to dishearten you.
What? This is the only podcast I watch. No. But yeah, what's your backdrop here?
Okay, so I'll do like a truncated, like whatever, like a
sure.
quick version.
He's like, I've done too many podcasts. I'm getting tired of the story.
Well, I think. Okay, well, I'll just cut to it then. So I flunked out of high school. I only got into a community college. Failure in my parents' eyes, failure in my own eyes. I knew I was funny.
And this was where?
This was in what do you mean where?
What city?
All in New York.
Oh, okay. All right.
My whole life is in New York.
Gotcha.
My high school was in Harlem.
Okay.
It's a high school for math, science, and engineering.
Is that a magnet school?
That's one of the specialized high schools where you take a test to get in.
Okay.
And I was the dumbest kid in the smart school, basically. Flunked out of that and barely graduated. And then community college, didn't like that. And so I started doing a stand-up class. That took me to a graduation show. I killed it. I did pretty well. And then I thought I was going to be famous for sure. And then
then here you are.
I went to a podcast today, picking out shoes. Yes, then I probably did that for like 6 months or a year, and then bombed really hard at a bringer show in front of my friends and everything, and then quit comedy for like 6 years, and then with a new perspective came back, and now I've been doing it.
What were you doing in that off time? Other than trying to kill yourself.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, you sort of kind of realign with what went wrong in your life, and then I started going, oh, well, maybe my parents are right. There's this pragmatic way to approach life that I never really cared for, and so I kind of got back.
And you got into reselling sneakers.
Not yet. That will come later. But I went back to school, studied computer science a bit. And then realized this is not for me. But I kept the good grades, whatever, and then pursued drama, then acting. Went to a acting whatever program, graduated from that, and then got back into comedy.
Nice.
Okay,
cool.
And I sold sneakers just because I didn't have a job, and my cousin loved doing it, and so invited me out. And then
how long ago was that? That was in the Roshi era?
4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
I remember the KDs just came out. It's like the KD 9s or whatever.
Gotcha.
And those were selling like fire. So
really?
We lined up that day, we grabbed like 12 to 20 pairs or something.
Yeah, you got to give me an insider perspective on this reseller side, because I don't meet any of them because I buy all my shit online. Again, being from upstate New York, like a lot of this collection you saw, was amassed up there, and it was quite a bitch getting it down here, let me tell you. I rented a U-Haul just for the shoes. I had no furniture, I had nothing.
Just shoes.
I had just shoes, so I put trash bags of shoes, load them in the car. That's why some of them have stains, even though I haven't worn them.
Oh, they got scuffed in the bank.
So, dude, it was such a bitch moving that shit down here. But anyway, so I had no access to resellers, let alone the fact that I couldn't line up here. I wasn't at the good Foot Lockers or Tier 0 accounts that were getting the nice shoes, let alone those other shoes that you were able to line up for and at least get a few pairs so you could resell them. But so I never even really met a reseller before, or one that sort of took it seriously. So you got to explain to me the inner workings of that, or whatever obviously I'm sure your cousin doesn't want to give away insider secrets or whatever, but just the general mentality, what your day-to-day was, you were talking about lineups and stuff. But.
Yeah, well, Foot Locker would say, Foot Locker has a few different ways. They do lotteries and then just lineups, right? The lotteries, you just take a raffle ticket, and then if you win, they call you and you come pick it up. Then you don't have to get up early for that. But when they have a release day, they say, oh, this Sunday we're going to have blah, blah, blah come out. And just line up. When the store opens, we'll sell them to you. But what they don't tell you is they don't open when the store opens. They open like 2 or 3 hours before because there's a line of people already there that were there 4 hours before that. So people have been lining up since like 3 a.m. for this. So what you do is you get on that line, right?
So you're showing up at 2 a.m.?
No, I could never show up that early. I would show up at like 6 a.m.
Okay.
6 a.m. is probably the earliest, and it sucked just waking up, driving to Manhattan, and you stand, and it's sometimes freezing or like or it's raining. It's not, there's times where it's freaking pouring rain, and you're just under an umbrella like a fucking idiot, watching The Office on your phone, trying to fucking pass the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to humanize the resellers so that the online crowd isn't just like fuck resellers.
It's not just Asians. There's more black dudes on that line than Asians. Although
sure.
You could argue the black dudes are probably just keeping them. That was probably racist. But anyways, you line up, you get it, and then sometimes you line up again because like they're still in stock. So you get them back on the line, you buy another, you throw them in your car, and you come back and you buy a few more, and then you put them on eBay. Some people are even fast, like they already list them before they even buy them, which is a risk because what if you don't get them?
Right.
But yeah, that's the game basically. It's not very glamorous. There's not too many secrets to it. Just get on the line and buy them.
What about for the super hyped shoes, like the shoes that only release at a few boutiques that they only made so many pairs of? I'm guessing maybe you didn't
I didn't
foray
do too
that.
much of those.
Okay.
Like Yeezys, you just got off the phone. You'd play like the button game.
Yeah.
So that's all there is to that. But if for the most part, that's the game. Is just line up early in the morning. Sometimes you hear that a certain store got like I don't know how my cousin knew, but like he knew a Nike store in Long Island stocked the Carmines one day, and I was the closest one there. And he goes, each of these will give you $100 profit, so go. And I was there. I was like, okay. And I just drove right there, brought a friend. They were only limiting it to one per person, so I got one. A friend got one. I almost tried to get people in the mall to like buy it for me, but I was like, I didn't have the balls to and make them do that shit. But yeah, that's.
I bet if you offered them $10, they'd do it. They'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean,
no, you fucked up
now.
But no, that's interesting. Why? How did your cousin know that was the market? Like, $100 profit. Like, how does he know?
From having sold that a bunch before.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? There's some shoes that you just, the moment you say it, then anyone reselling knows, oh, that's a hot ticket item. Carmines were hot for a while.
They've always been, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Like, you're not a reseller and so same deal. So we'll hear that and go,
But my problem is I'm just a buyer. I've never been a seller. So for me, it's just like, and luckily I'm blessed to be in a position where I don't have to look at the price tag.
Yeah.
Subtle flex there. But yeah, so I just pay what I got to pay, and I just pray that it's not too much more than retail cost. But I never know how these fuckers are deciding the market. You know what I mean?
No, the resellers don't decide the market. The buyers decide the market.
Well, okay, if you want to get technical. But I'm saying that someone's setting a price, right?
Yeah.
So I've always wondered how, well, I guess.
Where that meets, right?
Yeah.
Supply and demand. I mean, I'm not an economics guy.
Sure, but it sounds like just from what you're saying, your cousin has had enough experience to kind of just like know that intersection point at whatever point. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes you guess. Right? So like the KDs, he would sell one for $40 profit, and then he goes,
that's the weird one.
I could have sold it for 80 more, then put it there. And sells again. Oh, I could have done this. That's where you find the sweet spot.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's I'm glad you brought that back up, because that's been also interesting to me, because like I'll avoid certain shoes. I don't care how much hype it has, let alone doesn't have. If I'm not into it, I'm not into it. So KD is a perfect example. I have a couple in there that I really like. But in general, his signature line is not something I follow the same way I would follow like a LeBron or a Kobe or a Jordan. So that's interesting to me too, especially as being a reseller, let alone someone like me who's like actually into shoes for the buying of it and enjoying of it.
Yeah.
For someone like me, or for someone like your cousin who I'm guessing is not a huge sneakerhead. Or is that false?
Not a huge sneakerhead, though the game has made him like some sneakers.
Gotcha.
And that's why he had us wear J's to his wedding. He got us the same pairs, which is pretty cool. I think.
So, but even so, I mean, I'm guessing he's not a big KD sneaker fan.
No,
right.
not
so
at all.
Why is it that what in his head made him say, you know what, this is worth the line, this is worth the rain and the snow because I know these are going to sell? Is it he's in talks with other resellers? Is it just he has a feel for it? Like what's?
That's a great question.
Because I would never think to line up for KD's. Because I was surprised when you told me you guys made a bunch of money on them. So like, you know.
Yeah.
But like I'm not in tune with what kids are kind of feeling all the time, right? So
I think if I were to give you an answer, it would just be guessing. I think he had done it enough where he can kind of get an idea of when something's like starting to get some hype. And I remember that day he wasn't sure. We were lining up, and he goes, I'm just selling them for like 40 more, and that's not a big markup.
Right.
But the idea was he even said before, he goes, hey, by the way, today we're lining up, and there's a chance we won't make any money because these could be nothing. So we're lining up, and while online, he sells one for $40 profit, and he goes, oh, okay. And we line up again, sells another, and sells another. He keeps selling. He goes, oh shit, 90. Sells again. He's like, oh, okay, now you know. So there are days you go up and line up, and you're lining up for a shoe that's nothing.
Yeah, did that ever happen to you?
Oh, yeah, that happens. And then you just return it.
Do you remember which one? Oh, okay.
So it's quote-unquote risk-free, but you did spend
you spent the time, right?
Standing out there.
But I guess if you weren't doing anything anyway, then yeah. I guess you could write jokes on the line, yeah. Do you remember any shoes in particular that were like duds?
Duds?
Yeah, absolute bricks.
I'm trying to. I definitely had some, but they're not coming. Nothing that's going to come to
memorable.
mind. Like
Okay, fair enough.
I remember some of the ugliest sneakers sold the best. The up tempos, I couldn't believe how well they sold. Oh my god! I made $300 in like 2 hours.
Oh shit!
I was just like grab, sell, bang.
That's more money than I make as a dad.
You can turn that off. Fucking dinging.
Yeah, probably.
Your podcast listeners want to hear that?
Well, like I said, man, this is very bare bones. So I don't really. That's the thing, that we can transition into that topic. That's what the ding really was. It's so much more relieving once I just gave up perfecting the art, if you will.
Oh.
So like I remember trying to get a video, and I'd come up with a beautiful idea in my head, and then I'd immediately become depressed because I was like, A, I got no one to help me. B, no one's watching.
Are you talking about podcasts?
No, I'm talking about YouTube content in general.
Oh, okay.
And I'd be like, A, no one's watching right now. B, none of my friends or family are supportive or give a shit about this. C, I'm doing this all alone, and like all the effort that's going to be required to produce this idea I have in my head.
Yeah.
And then I would just shut down and get super pissed and miserable. And then the minute I just started like bare boning it, so now I just film everything on my iPhone. I scrapped all the fancy equipment, which sucks because I spent a ton of money on it.
Yeah.
The audio is not podcast quality audio, right? I don't have like the analog mics and whatnot, but it's passable. And it's much easier to do. I'm doing it out of the comfort of my own place. When someone says they're running late or, someone has to cancel, I'm like, no big deal. I'll just play PlayStation, whatever.
Right.
So the convenience factor has been incredible, not only for my mental health, but also to churn out more content much more efficiently. And the viewership has grown immensely. It almost has become like synonymous with my brand, which is just like raw, unedited, just
that's great.
Blah. So yeah,
it's like a balance, right? You have to find the balance of what is enough bare bones, right, versus quality, because there's a certain amount of bare bonesness that is unacceptable to even.
Well, that's subjective, isn't it?
It is subjective, you're right, but then there is still, so it's like a little graph, right? The more bare bones you get, then the more things can put someone off for watching. Right?
Sure.
So like you see, like there's people who do sketches on YouTube, and it's just someone's holding a camera or put their phone in their room, and it's in their freaking bedroom, and there's no lighting or whatever. If I see that as the thumbnail, I'm not clicking the video.
But you know who is? Millions of other people. So it's still doing well, man.
Yeah. I think well, now you're talking about niche then, right? You're kind of like, there's people that are, you're filling into a niche. I think then the discussion becomes, watching sketch comedy, there takes a level of like commitment before you click the video.
Sure.
And I think if you don't know the person, you don't know the YouTuber, then that's what you see. I feel like you're not gonna.
Yeah, it's not great for first impressions. I'll give you that. But what I've learned in this social media exploration is that, dude, people don't care anymore about the high production stuff. And
content comes first.
Content comes first. Yes, story comes first. So if you can nail that, yeah, maybe someone like you or like respected comics will not give a shit about it because they expect better. But I mean, clearly people are watching these things, you know, and I know a lot of comedians, especially even like the A-listers, will just constantly bitch about these Instagram comedians.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't like it either. Like, I don't think it's funny.
Right.
But it's fucking crushing.
Yeah.
And it's very bare bones.
Yeah.
It's extremely bare bones. So then you see someone else, like comics I highly respect and love watching everything they do, and they're only putting out like a few sketches every few months because they want to make sure that they meet those subjective minimums. Right? Then it's like, all right, well, I want to see more of your stuff, and I would be willing to see it at a lower production value, but you know, because you hold yourself to that standard, you limit the content you're putting out. And then who's winning? The Instagram comics.
Instagram comics are winning.
You know, so I feel like if we could get to a world where comedians here are more accepting of social media, I can't understand why I'm meeting comics who are like so anti-social media either. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, there's a level of stupidity with that. There's a little stubbornness. I mean, you got to be pragmatic to an extent, right? For you to turn down social media is ridiculous because that's the platform
that's the only
to get
way.
you anywhere. You'd be retarded to completely ignore that. And then there's a level of purism, right? There's I love doing it the way I do it because I love the purest form of the sketch comedy, and I don't like sacrifice. You make what you want to watch.
Right.
So would I want to see the Instagram thing? No. So therefore, I'm making what is up to my standard of viewing. And then those guys that make the Instagram stuff, they're making what is hopefully up to their standard of viewing, what entertains them. So. And to that level, you can't like force, which direction you go. I think there was a point where I was like, I would like to make one sketch a week, right? And then I started just like firing on all cylinders and making it happen. And I went insane. Like I wrote just pure trash one after another. And I shot 2 things, and they both sucked. And they sacrificed in sound. You couldn't hear anything. And I was like, all right, from here on out, for better or for worse, if I shoot it, it's gonna have to. I have to like it. It has to be under my high standards. Sure. At a cost of that consistent machine.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way to go. First rule is you gotta like what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll be like me, being miserable. Because that was the other thing. I felt like in the beginning, and I feel like every content creator starts here. Like they think they know what they want to do, but they don't really have the skill set yet. They're just learning as they go because there's no fucking manual for this shit, right?
So they're just making what their favorite thing they saw
or
what they saw.
And not only that, but like you're seeing things trend, especially on YouTube. You're like seeing trending things. You're like, oh, maybe I need to fit the trends to like catch the wave or whatever. And then you start doing that, and it's not really something you're into. So not only are you not feeling it, but of course the audience isn't going to feel it. And then no one's watching it, and you put in all this fucking time and misery into it, and you're just like...
You saw like for a while YouTube videos, they had this... They would... it would say like, you won't believe what's in this video. Like these clickbaity things or like pranks. And then parentheses gone sexual. And then it'd be like a thumbnail or something. And then I see that, I go, oh, that's all I have to do. But then when push came to shove and you start putting it together, you realize how much of a moral... like it breaks your character if for you to do it. And you're like, oh, I feel gross if I had to do it, and then you just don't. Because there's just these moral principles.
Yeah, man. So that's why I personally just finally decided, you know what, fuck this, man. I'm just going to make the videos I want to make, and you're right, man. That's made me much happier and much more. And luckily, what makes me happy, luckily, is even lower production value. So that's been working for me, but. Yeah.
You build it and hope they come.
Yeah, right? and it's getting to a point now as we've started to really grow, where now people are reaching out. They want to edit for me. They want to contribute. They want to do fan art and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
So that's that's encouraging, and I feel like I see that arc with a lot of like earlier YouTube stars where like you look at their oldest videos and it's just like them in a basement with a 240p.
Yes.
And then now you see them, if you got a team of
High
editors, they
production.
got everything is going. So I'm hoping to get there. And it's not like I want to keep it bare bones forever, but I kind of like my brand being raw because that means I can keep it raw as long as possible. So, but I want to get back to you as far as the sketch stuff. So how long have you been doing that?
Probably 4 or 5 years. With semi-consistency, I'll say.
Okay.
Right?
And how did you like recruit quote actors or comics or writers or sound guys, video guys? Like what's your process?
Oh, they
with
each
that?
came piece by piece.
Are these
The
just friends of
actors-
yours? Or these like?
Yeah, the actors started as people from acting school.
Okay.
I would take actors, and even now, there's some that I met there that I believe in their talent and stuff. So then I have them come along, and they'll also be cheaper because they're my friends,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can exploit them the way I like.
Got him.
Camera, I had my buddy, like a childhood buddy, for a while do it, and then he was always flaky about it, and I didn't really pay him. So I couldn't even blame him for like. And then it slowly dawned on me that you're gonna have to hire a camera guy if you want something like serious.
Right.
Sound, sound is like the most important part of sketches.
Yeah.
So I knew pretty early on that if I want to keep me, I just had to fork up money for sound. So I have a go-to sound guy that is pretty good. I don't mind sharing him. I think he's great. So anyone who needs to use him, I share his name. As far as the editing,
Except right now.
Except, yeah,
I figured you were going to go into his name, but okay.
Edwin. Is his name. Just to clear the air.
Yeah, slide into his DMs if you want to hit up Edwin, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
His
sure.
name is Dungeons_N_Diagon.
Interesting. Very accessible.
Yeah. Easy.
So you, and what kind of camera do you use?
I used a Panasonic G4,
Okay.
I think it's called, and so does my cameraman. He uses a Panasonic. I think he upgraded to like a Sony something fancy, or
Gotcha.
maybe a Canon like DSLR.
Okay.
But
so
yeah,
you
that's
pretty much just outsource all this except for the writing, or do you also collaborate with other people for that, or?
I do the writing. I have someone I go to workshop the writing
Okay.
now to make sure it's good enough to produce. As far as I do the editing, I think I write all the shots. Like I pick out the shots and so
That's got to be annoying.
It is.
Right.
It is quite annoying. And then to have your director understand that that's shots.
Oh, so you don't direct it?
So yes and no. Like the shot selection is a very directy kind of a thing. But then once the camera starts, I have basically my camera. He's directing the whole thing. He's telling
Okay.
me where to stand and
Gotcha.
what notes to give us. John Connor Hammond. He does a lot of comedian stuff. So I recommend him. What was I talking about?
You do all the editing.
Shots, producing. I do all the producing.
Okay.
And marketing, promotions.
How do you do the marketing and promotion?
But the 2 hits that I had blew up on Reddit.
Oh, okay. So you just posted our videos, or?
I posted it. The first one I posted on a place called YouTube Haiku.
Okay.
And they only take 30-second videos or less, which was perfect for like the butthole one. If you saw that one, drawing the butthole. And then that's where that got attention. And the other one I posted. The other one I think someone posted for me. And I think they posted on Funny, on our Funny.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Why don't you just post all your sketches on there?
I do.
Oh, okay. Right.
And then you'll find out. Then it becomes very sobering what videos hit and what don't, and what videos of yours are good and what are not. And truth of the matter is, if you put dialogue in it, the bar goes a lot higher for what's an acceptable video now. And every minute is like a marathon for people. So basically any 3 or 4 minute video I've put on there has died. It does not go anywhere. Even my latest video, which is like 2 minutes, I think. I don't think anyone's watched on Reddit. It's very tough. The marketing is very tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's saturated, bro. You got a lot of
It is.
Instagram comics to compete with. So that's cool, though. And where can we find that?
Peter Wong Comedy on YouTube.
Dope.
If you type that in.
And I see you post some of the clips onto Instagram, so that's also very smart. But yeah, man, I don't understand these comics that don't like to put their stuff out. They're like, oh, I'm worried they're gonna misconstrue it and cancel me. I'm like, dude, that's not gonna happen.
They're gonna cancel you. You got nothing. Right? You're back to where you started. If you're gonna cancel. It's retarded.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But
it's a little laziness. You'll see a lot of open micers. It's laziness and also a fear of putting themselves.
Yeah, no, I've started to appreciate that because as I'm transitioning from virgin, open micer to a man, to like, I don't want to call myself seasoned yet, clearly, but like I'm definitely noticing things. You know what I mean? Like I've learned a lot in just these short 6 months that I've been doing comedy, not only from my own act, but also, you know, the types of open micers you see, the types of comics that are making it, the types of shows that are hitting and not, and why something's working, why is not. So like I'm learning a lot just by immersing myself in the scene. So that's been kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm just realizing, man, like you lose yourself in it, because when I first got here, because I started comedy in Iowa, and
how long ago?
Like literally November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very.
And that was my first comedy club I'd ever been to, and that was like September or October. So I'd never even been to a comedy club, so I was just blown away. I always wanted to do comedy, but thought it was just like this thing I couldn't touch. You know, I was like, ugh. So, and then to go from all that to finally actually being able to try some open mics out there, and then now being like, oh boy, the Big Apple. This is the Comedy Central. You know, like I better bring it. And then I show up, and my first ever open mic, I was like, dude, this is worse than Iowa. Like, this is bad. And then I started doing mics, but I was still thinking like, yo, this is New York, so like the open micers here are like, yeah. But then you realize, no, bro, like it's still an open mic scene, but in a large city. So you're gonna get a lot of ass comics, like a lot of bad comedy. Yeah. And I'm only now starting to like, even within their first word, I'm already, you know, like can tell who is not going to make it. Like they're, you know.
Right. Well, I think not going to make it is harsh. I don't think you can always tell like who's.
Yeah, that's fair, because it may be their first time doing it. But if
I think, because in my first year, I with what I was doing, I think I was the not going to make it guy.
Right.
I was bombing like retardedly. Like it was insane. Like I would just bomb and then try to do like the save lines to get myself out and just be even worse, and I would say like the edgiest stuff just because I thought that was the thing to say. And
rookie.
Yeah. Well, and you know.
No, you're right. It probably is too harsh because you know, because I was there, right? But I guess in my head I'm picturing more specific people that I've seen multiple times now, where I'm like, I'm not seeing any progress from the last time I saw you, and off the stage I'm not seeing any progress in you at all. Like
there's a stubbornness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stubbornness.
I think it's part stubbornness, but also, like you said, part laziness and part like just not having it up here to know, like, dude, you realize you're making all the wrong moves here. Like, I feel like some of it's just like obliviousness too.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like well, you have to. There's a dying of the ego that you have to do with comedy, right? I mean, the reason you start comedy is because you're funny, probably, right? You're funny to your friends, and so you go, oh, I can do this, and then you go up and everything's telling you the opposite. So you have to kill the ego a little bit and say, so everything I thought of myself is wrong, and then try to use that information and build upon it.
Right.
And some people never accept that info because it hurts.
Which is weird to me, because it's like the audience is clearly telling you this is not working. Are you deaf? Are you what? Like, what is it that's telling you, hey, I'm going to keep coming up and keep telling these same bad jokes? Yeah. You know, like, what is that?
An identity. It is. You have to completely change the identity. You know, I relate like when I first.
But what was going through your head then in those first long bit of time where you weren't doing well and you were bombing, like you said? Like, what made you think I'm going to keep it the same? It's the crowd's fault or whatever.
Yeah,
like
that's exactly it. You go, that must be the crowd's fault. You know, I mean, I've been my whole life making people laugh. Who are these guys to? Or you'll go to an open mic and go, they're comics. They don't know what comedy is.
Right.
So then I went to the hardest I've ever bombed, I think, was because of this mentality, which is when I did my second bringer show at Gotham. So I brought my friends, and then my friends invited people. They're like, oh, my friend's so funny, come see it. So I have this, all my friends come in to see me in Gotham, and it's a show, and that I was bombing at mics with the material, and I thought it was because of comics. And so that day I wrote new material to try on the Gotham stage for the bringer show. and it involved me like writing Chinese letters on index cards. So like I would pretend they're subtitles while I'm saying and I wrote it in pencil. So they're already small enough on index cards, but now they're in pencil. So people sitting down past the first one can't even read what it is. They can't even see the joke. So I'm trying to do this bit, and no one's laughing. Nothing is fucking funny.
You're not even getting those.
There's your proof.
You're not getting any of those either?
Huh?
You're not getting any of those classic, I want to laugh, but this is a forced laugh laughs?
Not even the cousins. not even the cousins or my friends. They're like heads buried in their hands.
Yeah, that's how you know that was pretty bad. Yeah.
That's your reality check. And then some people can handle that, and some people can't.
What did your friends tell you after that? What did they say? Great job, buddy. Get them next time.
That's really what they say. Well, they don't tell you bombed.
Yeah, they're not going to be like, boo, we're not your friends anymore. Come back when you've sold more KDs.
Go sell some shoes, motherfucker.
No, you're way better at that.
They don't tell you. They just... They ignore the subject because
that's what friends are for, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough issue to address, of course, especially with non-comics. So they're like, wait, what? Okay. So, but then you said after that you took a long time off and reflected on all that shit, right? So.
Yeah, it took like 6 years off.
Jesus, man, that's crazy. I mean, I've been only doing it 6 months, but 6 years. I can only imagine where I'll be with comedy in 6 years if I keep it at the rate I am. Although
you have a better attitude about it already than I did in my first year.
Right. No,
but that comes with age, I think.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh, you're 28. Okay. Well, I'm 31. So yeah, I'm sure that's a factor because
but if you started when you were, because I started 17. If you started when you were 17, you have these other you haven't lived life yet. You have these preconceived notions of what that craft is.
Right. But it's also not demoralizing, but it's also like frustrating for me being like semi-competitive person to be like, oh, fuck, man, everyone in this game is so young. You're meeting these comics that are 21, 22, 25.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck, man, I'm behind. But then, you realize like, holy shit, I have content that no one else can use. Yeah. But, medical material no one can use. I can personalize it. And like you said, I've lived life, so I have a different perspective, so that I guess can kind of help. But like I'm young for a doctor in my position, but I'm like old as fuck for starting comics. That's kind of hilarious. But man, I've been impressed with my own personal growth in just 6 months of like what I'm learning, what I'm realizing, what I'm like analyzing now. But I just had Osama on right before you. He, because he got into medical school, so he has. When I hear him talk, or when I hear his bits, or when I see him around, like I can recognize patterns he's thinking in that like are almost like a doctor's mind, you know what I mean, or like a professional education mind.
Well, so, like what? What would you say?
Just like almost treating it like a math problem. Like, okay, I got to do this so that this will happen, or I got to do this to the crowd so that, like, he's treating it like an equation. Whereas you talk to other comics,
you're saying he's very formulaic,
right? No, not even formulaic.
He is not, just a very.
He's a hack.
Every joke is set up. Here's an exaggerated punchline. I know. I've been saying this for years. Osama sucks.
Yes, I mean whereas you talk to some other comics who are just like, man. It's just a feel, man. Like they can't even like articulate where they were inspired from or how they got to where they are. Like, and not to say that that's wrong. It's just like a whole different line of thinking, and it does work for some people, but it's never worked for me. Like I'm a very literal guy. Like I need to be explained. Like, okay, what did you mean by that? Can you give me an example?
Are you saying you're very equation-like as well?
Yeah,
mathematical.
Yeah. Like I'm like, oh shit. Okay, so bar shows / open mics with 3 people left. I can't do bits. I have to do crowd work. Like I'm doing these formulas in my head now.
Yes. And so that's good for a lot of logical situations that you find yourself in. But on the other hand, comedy can be very illogical.
Yeah, of course.
A lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's where my autistic spectrum comes in, so I can utilize that.
Yeah. What? What are you talking about?
Oh, shit. I'm pretty sure I'm on the spectrum. You know what I mean? So, like...
You think so?
I think so. And I want to say almost all comics are, like, at some level of the spectrum.
I think you're just socially awkward, man.
Yeah, well, isn't that part of it,
I mean, socially, not any more socially awkward than anyone else who just hasn't been social.
Sure, sure.
There's like self-inflicted, quote unquote, autism, which is like I haven't talked. For example, me around women, I have a lot of trouble with.
Right.
I haven't been around women. I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Doesn't mean I'm diagnosed with a.
Well, I'm not diagnosing myself.
Illness.
I'm using it colloquially.
Oh,
so
okay. Then
I don't want to like offend people with like true autism or like life debilitating autism. I don't mean it in that respect. I just mean spectrum. I love the term spectrum because like you could be anywhere on the fucking spectrum.
Right.
But I do feel like comics, at least good ones, are somewhere on that spectrum because I feel like you have to be able to recognize things that other people don't, to be able to point to observations other people don't really think about.
Okay, I'll buy that.
And I feel like I came to this self-realization in retrospect, almost like I'll give you a perfect example. Women is a great example. So like I remember not ever having talked to women. Obviously, some of that self-inflicted from family values and all that kind of shit. And I remember when my friends started to talk to girls or started to hook up with girls, and I'd be like, "Yo, so what happened?" And what's the answer always? Dude, it just happened.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing this, and then one thing led to another. I'm like, dude, that doesn't work for my brain. Yeah. I need to know where were you, what were you wearing, what did she say, what did you respond with?
Opener, the line to use, all that stuff.
That's what I want.
Right.
I want to know what was the formula, right?
Yes.
And so, and to the point, I'm serious. So like to the point where my friends are getting pissed off at me, like, dude, I told you everything.
Yeah.
To them, that's everything. To them, it's a feeling. It's, dude, I just went with it because I don't have this spectrum bullshit you're dealing with. Like, I can't think like that, right?
You're also probably risk averse as a person.
Yes, yeah, very. So why do you think I finished med school before I started this, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, that's also a factor, right? And yeah, I feel like for comedians, I think it ends up working out as a beautiful thing because then all of a sudden, because your brain works this different way, and that was just one example, I can give you thousands. All of a sudden, once you start to realize or recognize these patterns with different parts of the comedy, hodgepodge, you start to see where you can incorporate your spectrum into the comedy. So just to bring it back to what you were saying earlier, like, yeah, it's formulaic, but it's also a little bit illogical. I think that's where I put my illogicness into it, is like when I can recognize the patterns and then insert myself into those patterns. Now that I can know what's worked before, what hasn't, I'm accumulating data in my head of like what's funny and what's not. And it's just like, it's not for everyone what my brain is doing, but this is what my brain is doing.
I think in 6 months that'll all go away. If you go hard at it for another like 6 months or a year, I think it's a very relatable thought process. A lot of people there's a lot of in newer comics especially, and I'm not trying to insult you or anything.
No, you can't.
In starting out,
my friends do that enough, so I am immune, sir. Yeah.
Oh man, now I feel bad. Right. So there's a lot of like, because there's so much of comedy that's out of the control that it comes with. It's almost like a scholarly way of approaching it, where you want to put as much into control as possible, including formulaic ways of attack and stuff. And then when you just go up there, how often does that whatever plan you had completely just has to be thrown out the window, right? Every wording and every emphasis, whatever thing you had, it doesn't really work.
Yep.
It's kind of like drawing up 10 different, 10 pages on how to shoot a free throw instead of going on the line and shooting a free throw, right? You can be right in every single thing you wrote, but once you're shooting it, it comes down to nothing except just doing it.
But yeah, I mean, that's a perfect analogy, because what if you just keep shooting free throws? Eventually, you're not even thinking, you're just doing it, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Now, if you have been shooting free throws for like a year or 2 years, and then there's just something fundamentally off, you keep missing the rim by the thing, then you can kind of dive in, right? And the papers are like, oh, okay, so I freaking have a hitch, like what's his name from freaking the Sixers for a while, where he like did this. LaMelo? No, Lamar. No, it wasn't Lamar Ball.
No. Yeah. Fuck, what's his name? Damn it! First overall pick. I mean, this is how irrelevant he became, how quickly. But yeah, I can't remember the kid's name. Sorry, dude. But yeah. No, I know who you're talking about.
For you not knowing it, not saying it.
The guy who got picked before Lonzo Ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so but that's the idea, is right? You see the problem and then you start attacking it
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, I'm saying I've recognized that. So like I was that comic that I'm recognizing is quote not going to make it, where they keep doing the same bits over and over. They're not recognizing the room. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. So you're right. I am still in that process where I'm like recognizing the patterns. But I think you're totally right, man. The more I do this in another 6 months to a year, then I won't even be thinking about it. I'll just be doing it.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to get, where I'm bringing my genuine inner
voice,
spectrum self to the stage with that voice.
Oh yeah,
so,
that's the dream for all of
everybody.
us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I definitely sense it coming, and ideally it'll come sooner than later. But yeah, it's a journey. So luckily, man, it's just been dope meeting other comics and just having a good time with other comics. To be honest with you, because that wasn't my entire upbringing up until fucking age 31. I was surrounded by math, science types. My family who doesn't give a shit.
It's a
about
completely
creative
different life
arts.
for you, right?
It's a completely different life.
Yeah.
And it's just so strange to be able to like be surrounded with A, funny people, B, like people that are willing to collaborate and like come on for this kind of thing, or bounce ideas off each other and whatnot, and just have a good time. So regardless of whether I quote make it or not, like it's just been super fun, just like being a part of this thing.
Yeah, don't quit. I mean, if you're old, whatever. I mean, when you're 35, you'll still be 35, right? So you might as well just keep doing it.
I mean, my life's pretty good, man. Like I'm not complaining.
Yeah, if you're an absolute fucking failure, you're an absolute failure in a penthouse in a 42nd.
Right.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't say the address.
Yeah, don't do that. Actually, funny enough, just based on the location, because it's very visible, like a bunch of people have already guessed the location. But
on your fucking that is crazy.
Well,
the internet is just crazy.
Dude, do you remember that? I talked about this on the podcast already, but do you remember that whole 4chan versus Shia LaBeouf situation?
Yeah, where they like tracked down the flags he put.
Can you believe that shit? Dude, the internet is undefeated. I love the internet, man.
4chan is like the most not fuck with them at all. I don't like,
dude, that should go down in like national history, that story, I think, personally. But because it was tied to fucking Trump for whatever reason, I think it was, it's never going to get recognized.
So
but that is just such a beautiful example of where our world is now, and I don't think it gets enough credit. And that's why, again, going back to social media, man, like this is it. Like we are Carson now. Like this is Carson right now. Like we are putting something into the universe that is there forever and will be found by people.
You said Carson? Carson,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Like Johnny Carson, like the talk show.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because in the past, I should probably explain. In the past, it was like, if I make Carson, my career is made as a comic, right?
Yeah.
Or, modern day Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. But that doesn't exist anymore. Like, I see plenty of these guys doing those gigs and then they're still doing their thing. You know what I mean?
It doesn't change your life anymore.
Because it's more saturated, blah, blah, blah. So I think what's really working is podcasts, who's finding you funny as an individual. Because that's half the battle, I feel like with... like you said, you're funny amongst your friends, but then you can't be funny on stage.
Yeah.
But if you build that audience over this, where you find, quote, internet friends, then all of a sudden, people already know where you're coming from. People know your quirks. People know your inside jokes. And then all of a sudden, when you show up on the stage, they're there for you. A, they're supportive. B, they already know kind of what your tone is and what your voice is. That helps you kind of be more yourself on stage. So I feel like...
So you want to establish a fan base through this, and then
and I mean, I already have very appreciatively through to the tune of 20,000 plus people in just the 2 years.
220,000?
No, 20,000.
Oh, 20,000.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, in just 2 years of doing this, man. So
that's great.
Yeah, so
from this podcast.
No, I wish. No, just from YouTube in general. Okay. With obviously most of my content is sneaker based. So those will get a lot more views for you than the podcast, I promise.
Okay.
But again, it's this is how you do it.
Yeah. I think we're in a time where if you're talented, then there's no excuse not to make it anymore.
Exactly.
Everything is within your arm's reach if you're putting out.
Right. Because even if the Comedy Cellar or whatever other clubs around here don't pass me, I don't give a shit. I'll keep doing my things. I told you, right? I post every single open mic set to YouTube.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I post every set to YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
Everyone says don't do that, but guess what, motherfucker? I'm doing it.
Okay.
Deal with it. And here's why. I'll tell you why. One, no one else is doing it, right? So I'll be, everyone's got to do something different if you want to make it, right? So that's my little different thing, first of all. Second of all, I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't a narcissist right now. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could be good at it, right? So how dope would it be if you were a super fan of whatever comic, let's just say Chappelle, and then you find out, oh shit, I have access to his entire catalog of how he got there. So you can go back to his first ass set, the 50th set where he absolutely bombed. Like, it would be, how cool would it be to have that, you know? As an offshoot of that, like I have the earlier sets, the ones that have been up since, November, thousands of views. Routinely, they're getting hundreds of views now. Like, people are watching these things. So even if there's fucking 4 people left at the creek in the cave watching me, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm technically performing
in your mind, performing to the
like
thousands.
100, 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
At least on a short-term basis, and then over the long term, who knows how much they'll accumulate, right? And it's kind of cool to show your fans a different side of like what you're doing, because I never wanted to be, because like your things is all sketch comedy on your channel, right? But if you were to suddenly upload like a food review, people would go, what the fuck is this, right? Which a lot of YouTubers, a lot of big YouTubers now will bitch about it. Well, they feel like they're in their own prison, like a golden handcuffs type situation. Like, this is what's bringing me the bread, this is what's bringing me the views. I want to dive into something new, but I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to lose the fanship because they're here for this. So I recognized that early, and I was like, all right, well, I just won't do that then. So my growth has been stunted. Granted, 20,000 is no chump change, right? But I could be much bigger if I did nothing but sneaker videos.
Right.
But I don't like the idea of being pigeonholed into one specific
So you're doing
niche.
like a life thing, right? Whatever you do is just going to be that channel.
Exactly.
And then,
Exactly. And I'm okay with the podcast getting 100 views.
That's a sharp turn, though, from sneakers to open mic. Like, for your viewers, I kind of empathize.
No, of course. Listen, and I'm sorry, guys, but the guys listen to this. So that's the other thing you start to learn is going back to formulas. Like, there's a formula to, or an algorithm to how your fans are. Like, there's those hardcore creepy fans that are like, dude, you may want to like cool it a little bit here. All the way to like the super fans that are respectful but watch everything you do, to the hardcore fans that are silent fans. Like, they'll watch every video but they'll never comment, they'll never contribute or interact with you, but that's fine. All the way down to the flaky fans that maybe caught a video, subscribe, but they haven't been back since.
Yeah.
Or, they'll ask you a question in the video that you've already addressed, but you're like,
So they didn't watch the whole video?
Either they didn't watch the whole thing, or people just have different attention spans, different IQs, different levels of understanding and comprehension. So
You're calling him an idiot.
technically speaking,
They have different IQs.
But it's a real thing, man.
It's not an insult. Their IQ is lower. Their intelligence quotient is lower.
But it is a real thing, man. Like, there's fat people, there's skinny people, there's fast people and slow people, and there's
what are you talking
smart
about?
people and dumb people.
There's all types of people. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
They all exist. So, and some of them are my fans.
Okay. Good.
But I say all that to say, the hardcore fans will watch, right? Mm-hmm. So for them, this is cool. Like, they're watching right now, and this is great. But
live?
No, it's not live. But when they see this will be to them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I just decided, like, fuck it, man. I'm just gonna put my whole self out there, and then whoever's fucking with me, that's who I want. And I'll routinely get unsubscriptions, especially on a day where I'll post like segments of someone's podcast, like 2 hours for the whole day. Every 2 hours, a new clip is coming out.
Yeah.
Whereas in the recent past, I was only able to pump out like maybe one video a day, but especially with this podcast and the segments and the lack of editing it requires, I'm able to pump out just like content, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. And dude, one day I saw it drop in like 100 subscribers.
Those are the funniest. I'll put like a video out and I lose 15 people, and I'm like, oh boy.
But see, lucky for me, I don't tie myself to the number anymore, so I just like laugh at it, because I know in the big picture of things that number will climb back up, and it always does.
Yeah.
So you want to shed the fat, if you will. You want to shed those flimsy fans. You want to get rid of them, because they're not really your fans. They're not really there for you.
The more you do stuff like that, the more you're putting yourself in a specific voice, and then now people will see. I guess the more polarizing you are, the more of the side that wants that will
exactly, and that's who you really want at the end of the day. That's what else is this for, right?
Yeah.
So, because what good is it to have 1 million subscribers and then when you go on tour, like, no one shows up because like we're not really into you for this, man. Whereas if you have 1,000 hardcore subscribers, bro, they will follow you all over the world, right?
Yeah.
I even have a dude hit me up last night. He's like, "Oh man, I'm in New York City. I'm a big fan. Are you doing any open mics? And I'd love to come see it."
Wow.
Like, you see? So, and I can only imagine where that's going to be in a year from now. With this exponential
That's a sneaker
growth.
guy, or
yeah. But I mean, everyone arrives for the sneakers, and I'm starting to see these kinds of comments on my stand-up sets. And if you got to go, we'll wrap this up. But
a couple minutes. Yeah.
Sure. I'm starting to see it as a theme. Came for the Snickers, stayed for the stand. It's like, so it's kind of cool to see people kind of follow along. And I do a lot of quirky, cringy shit that's really not a lot of people's taste. But that's fine with me, man. I'm just being my genuine self. I'm happy that I'm able to bring that. And that's the main reason I'm able to even have the confidence to even pursue stand-up in the first place was because, I saw people accepting me for me as I started to open up more about my quirkiness, you know what I mean? So that's been kind of cool. But yeah, man, it's been a joy. I'll tell you this funny story though. You were mentioning Reddit. So I post every set, right? Big no-no. Even the bad ones, man, I put them up. So like I told you, every set, even nowadays especially, they'll be routinely getting 200 to 300 views. Around this time, this was a few months back, I wasn't as good, first of all. And second of all, they were getting maybe 50 to 100 views per video. Now, this particular set, I did horrible. I didn't do any material. I was having a bad day that day for a number of circumstances. And then this mic sucked, surprise. And so I just got up there. I just started like railing into people, just like bitching about how stand-up comedy sucks and like, why is everyone using this as therapy and blah, blah, blah. I just went on a whole tirade. No one's laughing. And I finally went into some jokes that it bombed hard, and they were like some edgier, not edgy like racist or whatever, but like for me it was a little bit edgy. And then I posted it, right? And within a half day, that shit has like 2,500 views on it.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is going on here? Later that night, a friend of a friend has to text me to be like, dude, did you know you're on the front page of Reddit's cringe page? Dude, I was dying. I was like, holy shit, I made it.
Oh,
no. The best part is the comments, man, because like, think about it. These people have no idea who the fuck I am, right? And they're commenting like, dude, you need therapy. You need to go see somebody, man. You need some real friends. I'm like, bro, you don't fucking know me, but this is hilarious. And I started to, because I'm a comment replier. I reply to almost every comment.
Oh, yeah, you're very insecure, yeah.
But I mean, almost everyone that's making content is insecure, but I don't notice a lot of people engaging their fans.
No, it was a joke.
Okay.
That you defended and therefore proved.
No, I'm not saying I'm not insecure. What I'm saying is I'm surprised that more people don't reply back to their
Well,
viewers.
there's a level, right? There's like openly negative without any form of construction.
I'm saying
It's
even
like,
the good comments.
Yeah.
Like you don't respond with a thank you. You don't respond with a hey.
Yeah.
I don't see that routinely.
No, you're right. That's something that you should probably do in the interest of.
You definitely should do that. Like these are people that took time out from their lives. I'm learning now the new currency is attention. Like if with all the content that is available for people to consume, the fact that 100 or so people decided to watch this, like the day it came out or the first few days it came out. How humbling is that? That's amazing. That's
You're
like,
right. That's good. That's a good perspective.
So, where was I going with that? So anytime I get a comment, in the past couple months, it's been harder to reply to everyone. So the more generic comments, I'll at least hit the thumbs up and the heart button, just to make sure they saw that I saw it. But anyone who asks a question, anyone who leaves a more kind-hearted remark, let alone the uglier comments, I'll respond to all of them. And I remember for the Reddit post, like all the people that were kind of like, you need help, what the fuck? And I just responded to them like, yeah, man, it was a bad set. And they were just like, holy shit, you're taking this pretty well, man. I like you.
You probably got a few subscribers.
Because and it was kind of funny seeing people like come to my defense too when they saw me come like, hey, leave him alone, like this wasn't even that bad or whatever. Man. So, and you'll notice that too when you like a lot of people have different perspectives on this as far as like how to deal with hate, negative comments or whatever. And a lot of people like to equate it to like, oh, it's just some pimpled virgin incel on his mom's basement on a keyboard. But I don't like to think of it like that. I like to think of it as just a guy just like me or a girl just like whoever out in the streets who just happened to be having a bad day that day. You happen to show up on their timeline, they clicked on it, they weren't in the right headspace, and they just decided to lash out as a way of like feeling better about themselves. And then a lot of times I notice when I respond to those hate comments, usually with something funny, just to be self-deprecating or be like, yeah, sure, or whatever, they'll respond back, no, I was kidding, or oh man, I was just having a bad day. I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean it, or whatever. So that's very nice. It's just people trying to connect with other people. So like, who the fuck are you? Back when I didn't have this many subscribers, and I see people with less subscribers than me that I'm like commenting on it. hear nothing back. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just like, who the fuck do you think you are? That like, well, you think you're too good to like reply to people? Like, you're not even that big.
You may have turned me around on this. Like, I feel like I don't reply a lot, but I probably should, considering they're taking their time out and to do the appreciation.
Just to acknowledge.
And I do appreciate them.
Yeah, exactly. Like you put in all this effort to like have them give you their precious time, and then for them to even take the extra effort, because I'm not a commenter. I'm really not. So when I do, and I'm a little bit better about this now that I've become a content creator, where like I understand now, especially coming from a non-creative background to this now, it's like I'm understanding now like how precious that is to someone to be able to like put themselves out there, just to comment, let alone create content or whatever. So anyone that comments, I'm still, trying to make the time to reply to everyone, or at the very least hit the fucking thumbs up and the heart thing. Same thing with Instagram. I used to respond to all the comments. Now I just got to do the heart thing at the very least. And I'll still occasionally reply, especially if it's like a question or something, like a genuine interaction as opposed to cool or whatever. So,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just like it's just been super fun connecting with people, and you routinely hear it. They're like, "Oh man, you're my favorite YouTuber. You're so genuine. You're always interactive. You're always engaging." Some people will literally subscribe to me and leave a comment saying that. Be like, I like that you reply to everyone. Subscribe, like, So a little tip for you.
I'll start doing it. All right, now you told me I have something to gain from this. I'll do it.
There you go. I'm glad I could help. So where can we find you? Why don't you plug yourself?
Instagram, Peter Wong Comedy, and you can find me on YouTube if you type in Peter Wong.
Dope. Any shows coming up? Any other stuff you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm doing a show.
And you have a website too, don't you?
Yeah, peterwongcomedy.com. I have a show at a place called Friends and Lovers. It's called Side Ponytail Wednesday. This coming Wednesday at 8 p.m. I don't know when this comes out.
It may not make it by then.
Yeah, fine. I'll be doing a couple shows in Boston coming Friday, May 31st.
Nice.
If you see me, great. If not, go fuck yourself.
Dope. All right, man. Thanks for coming. See you guys around.
Thanks for having me.
Peace.